Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Okay, the reason we're here today is to talk about this knife, which is the Case BoneStag GunStock Jack. And I just purchased this knife a couple days ago, and wanted to talk to you about it because, well, I got the Case Bartender GunStock knife also, and I was going to compare these two because this one was made in 2004 and this one is from 2022. They're both BoneStag, so I wanted to kind of compare those two, and I'll get started on that in just a second. But before I do that, I need to point out a big mistake I made in my earlier video on this knife here, the Bartender knife. In that video, I mentioned that Case never made a GunStock Jack, and I actually put it on the screen that Case never made a GunStock Jack, and that was flat out wrong. And what's more important, I kind of knew it was wrong, but when I went back and looked a second time through my notes, I could not find the GunStock Jack. But fortunately, JC did know that yes, indeed, Case had made a GunStock Jack, and he called me out on it, and he mentioned that the pattern number for it was the number 15 and also the number 30. Now, I can verify that they definitely made a number 15 GunStock Jack, and it looks very, very similar to this knife here. However, as far as I can tell, the number 30 was used for an equal and penknife. But you can never say never with Case because they do reuse pattern numbers. So maybe at one time the number 30 was also a GunStock Jack, and it was also used for that. The number 30 was also used for that purpose. However, the number 15 in the GunStock Jack was used for two different GunStock knives. So they made one that was 3 5/8 inches, which is about this size, and then that was the one that was made from around 1915 up until around World War II. And then they also made another one that looks very similar to it, also using the number 15. But it was 2 7/8 inches instead of 3 5/8 inches. So there were at least two other GunStock Jacks that were made by Case, but they were not the same size as this knife. This knife comes in at 3 3/4 inches, so this one is an 1/8 inch longer than the earliest of the Case GunStock knives, which was 3 5/8 inches long. But the blades look about the same as what you see on here. You have the long Spearmaster blade, and then the secondary pin blade, which you have on this knife in the 3 5/8 inch frame. And the 3 5/8 inch frame at some times would be a bare head also. So they made a bare head GunStock as well as ones with two bolsters. And those are very scarce and hard to find. And I think maybe that is why the 130 GunStock that we have now is 3 3/4 inches long instead of 3 5/8 inches long, so that it will be more difficult for somebody to counterfeit and make this one appear to be a number 15, because like I said, those are as scarce as hen's teeth. But indeed, Case did make GunStock knives earlier than this one, and I cannot verify that these actually started in 2003. They may have come out a little bit earlier than 2003. What I do know is the Bartender knife here, this Bartender version of the GunStock knife, this was introduced in 2003. The GunStock itself might have been earlier than that, and it is still around as of 2022. And again, I want to thank JC for mentioning that to me in the comments on this knife, because I hate to put out bad information, and I should know better than to ever say never, especially when talking about a knife that was made by Case. Um, I should just pretty much assume that if it's a traditional pattern knife, most likely at some point in time, Case probably made it. Okay, let's talk about the GunStock Jack. This is the particular one I bought. Someone had mentioned once you start grabbing the BoneStag, you're going to get stuck with it, and you'll just keep buying more and more of it. And they are right. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite types of bone from Case, the BoneStag. Yes, this is actual cattle bone that has been jigged to look like stag. The pattern number always with their BoneStag is always 6.5. They actually refer to it as 6.5 BoneStag. I think I mentioned that in a video on their on my BoneStag toothpick. In any case, this particular one, it came in the black box. This box is not exclusive to the BoneStag. I think it's just a new box that Case is using for various knives. An interesting thing you see here is the price tag on there. I bought this knife from Shepherd Hills Cutlery. I buy a lot of my Case knives from Shepherd Hills. I really like the company. They are very fast at shipping. I've just had a very good relationship with them as a customer. I am in no way a spokesman for their company or anything like that, though. One of the interesting things I noticed, and I've seen this on other boxes from them, is you'll see the manufacturer's list price and their price. And you see this $111.20 versus $75.99. So what you're seeing here is actually the full-blown retail price of the knife. No one pays full-blown retail. And that's why you see the price over here is $75.99. And that's probably the price you're going to get this knife, the GunStock Jack and BoneStag. You'll probably get it for around $76 from any other retailer you find it at. So if your favorite is SMKW or DLT or something like that, they'll probably have it also. Or Red Hill. There's another company that deals in a lot of Case knives. 4/13/22, that is the born date for this particular BoneStag knife. And this one here, the Bartender knife, I mentioned this before. This one came out on August 3rd, 2004. And so let's take a look at how much the BoneStag has changed over the years. So 2003, almost 20 years ago, versus 2022, present day. And if you look there, you can see a distinct difference. One of them is, well, notice how dark it is in the stagged area and the number of lines cutting through the stag there versus here. And notice the cutting of the lines there. There is definitely a distinct difference between the two knives. Just the way the jigging has been done on there. And I don't know if they've just changed up the machine that is doing the jigging or what. The other thing you'll notice is this one has a lot more torching going on this natural bone. This one has some torching. It is in the blacked out area, and that is something also that I noticed. This area, it is much more deeper and blacker than this area where the blackness is basically in the grooved lines. And quite frankly, both of them could pass for stag, because stag does not look the same from animal to animal. So why would you expect it to look the same on a knife, especially when it's been processed and everything else? So definitely a difference in the way the BoneStag has evolved. At first, I wasn't too crazy about this one because, well, the other version of BoneStag I saw was in my toothpick, and this one had more torching going on it. As you can tell, this one has a lot less torching. This toothpick was earlier than the GunStock Jack. It came out a couple of years ago, and you can see that the torching has changed a little bit, as well as the way the jigging is done in the bone for the stag. And I don't know how Case is doing this. I don't know if it is being done on a machine or if they have a couple different people who are doing it. I don't think it is hand jigged, but I do think that they might have a couple different ways of doing the jigging so that the bone will look different, or the stag, the end result will look different from knife to knife. Of course, the only way to know for sure is if I were to buy multiples of the same pattern and see if it looks the same on each knife. But when I've looked at the stag bone on like the Rough Rider knives, matter of fact, the Rough Rider knives, the Marbles knives, and the Colt knives, all of them which were done in the same Rough Rider factory, the stag bone looks the same from knife to knife to knife throughout 3 different companies because of the laser guiding of the jigging on that. And you cannot say the same for this jigging. It definitely is different from knife to knife. And the Rough Rider stag bone has not changed in 15 years or more. So, but this has definitely changed, even just over a few years. So definitely a difference in the BoneStag. And I'm tell you something else. I have actually seen Case BoneStag knives being sold on eBay as genuine stag, and I've looked at it closely and thought, no, I think that's probably the BoneStag. And the only way I could verify for sure that it was BoneStag is by looking at the pattern number. Whoops, wrong blade. The pattern number on the knife, and seeing that number right there, the 6.5. Can we see it there? Having a hard time. Yeah, 6.5. In this case, 2130. The 2 for number of blades, and the 130 is the actual pattern number. But the 6.5 refers to the handle material on the BoneStag knives. The other big difference between these 2 knives, obviously, is this one is the Bartender. So it has the additional blades of the label cutter and the corkscrew. And then the other 2 blades that it has are the main spear blade, which you will find on this knife, and the secondary blade, which is the pin blade. A couple people had mentioned that they wished that Case had put a cap lifter on here, and usually the comment is they wish this would have been made into a cap lifter. I actually like the label cutter blade on here, but I do think that they should have gone ahead and added a cap lifter to it, and this is the blade that should have probably been changed and turned into a cap lifter. I don't need 2 cutting blades like that, especially when I got a label cutter over here. Anyway, that would be my advice to Case if they ever decide to come out with the Bartender knife again. And obviously, if this is going into the vault, then I'm sure the Bartender knife is going into the vault as well, if it's even being made anymore. But now let's just focus on the GunStock Jack. Okay, aside from my other Bartender knives that are built on the GunStock frame, I don't think I have many GunStock knives, especially just your basic GunStock Jack. There might be one down there in my collection, but I can't recall it. So it would be one of those patterns that has really flown under the radar for me for the longest time. I did see these, obviously, when they first came out. Like I mentioned, I did not have the money to even buy the Case ones when I first saw them. So I ended up settling for the Rough Rider ones. Rough Rider, I believe, also has made numerous gun stocks, but I don't believe I bought any of them. I bought this one basically because I saw that it was going into the into the vault, and because I had this knife, and I really like that, and I thought, well, this would make a really nice companion to it. So that's another reason why I went with the BoneStag. Also, I already had BoneStag in one. But I can see after holding the knife for a while why so many people like the pattern. First of all, if you notice the blades, they kind of recess in there nicely, so you don't have that pocket snag going on. Yeah, there's a little bit of a bump, but for the most part it is down far enough that you're not dealing with it, and you just got a nice graceful line there. So even when you're holding the knife open and you got the one blade, it feels good in the hand. And I don't know, the shape of it is nice, especially with a little bit more swell on the back there. And because of the BoneStag, you got a little bit of a swell in the center here too, so it feels good in the hand too. It just feels nice in the hand. The blades on here are, like I mentioned, they have a little bit of a pull. It is brand new, so it might be part of the reason, but I would say the opening on it is probably in the 7 or 8 range. It'll probably loosen up a little bit over time. I feel it loosening already a bit. Getting a little smoother too, just from opening and closing. I feel like a little nudge, barely a nudge on there, but to call it blade wobble would be kind of a, I guess you could call it blade wobble if you really want to just pick on case. I would go with that. You got a nice swedge up on top here. Blade feels nice and smooth. Yeah, you definitely have the case mirror polish. You don't now because shouldn't have been eating potato chips before doing the video. So you got a lot of grease on the handle there, or on the blade there. Let me wipe it off. Typical mirror polish of a case knife though. And now it's got lots of vegetable oil on it, so that'll help, right? And then it is the True Sharp stainless. Nice little pin blade again with the swedge. And I found out that case refers to these long poles. Everyone calls them a long pole. I think they call it a French pole. That's what I heard one of the case reps referring to it as, and he said it's a term that was used pre-World War II on knives, that the long straight pole like that was known as a French pole. I did not know that, so learn something new every day. So you can refer to your long pole as a French pole or a long pole, either way. But what gets everyone with this knife is the bump there. And I tell you what, I really have to go back and look to see if Case has made a single blade gun stock, because if they did, I am probably going to go and grab one of those, because this would really be nice in a single blade, because then you have the full bump gone here. Yeah, the handle without a that even feels better. So yeah, once you get rid of the second blade there, that feels a whole lot better. But even with the blade there, it is not a it still feels good in the hand. But this would be a great single bladed knife as well. And as you can see here, very smooth transitions everywhere. There's no gapping or anything like that. The bone is well pinned, very smooth transitions. Blades are nice and tight. Secondary blade, yeah, also very nice and tight. The pull on the secondary blade is just as strong as this, probably in the 6 or 7 range. You're definitely going to feel it when you're opening it. There you go. The tang stamp with all the X's for the 2022. Nickel silver bolsters. Looks like nickel silver pins. I think they said brass pins, but those look nickel silver. That is definitely brass. And then the BoneStag. I don't know, it looks like a really terrific knife. It feels good in the hand. You know, if you're up to the Case True Sharp Steel, you're probably going to be happy with it. If you want something better than that, then you're going to complain. And if you're a Case hater, you already have turned off this video by now because of how long I've been talking. Otherwise, stick around. I'll show you a couple slides on this and get to the specs in the slideshow. Alright, this is pretty much an anomaly you're going to see with some of these knives, such as this Case GunStock. If you notice here, it says April 13th, 2022 is the born date for the knife. But if you look at the tang stamp, you'll see that there are 9 dots on there, which means that this was actually made in 2021. And what it is the blades were stamped out in 2021, and 2021 was actually going to be the last year of production for these knives, but production was interrupted because of COVID, and so production wasn't finished in time. And this also happened with some of the 2021 knives coming out with 2020 dates on them. And actually, this knife, it was not supposed to be made in 2022. It was supposed to finish production at the end of 2021 and then go into the vault. But because the parts were around, they just basically ran them out. And they did this with several other knives as well, where there were still parts laying around. They needed to get them finished. They finished them off. So they will have a born date for 2022, even though the tang stamp will say 2021. Now this is going to probably run into issues down the road when people are going to look at this and go, wait a minute, this guy's cheating me. It's the box says 2022, but the knife was made in 2021. But there was actually a representative of Case on Cutlery Corner Network who was saying specifically that this is what has happened and why you have these knives like that. Once again, tang stamps are not always 100% accurate. What we do know is this knife was not made from 2020. And in the case of this one, because we have both the box and the knife, and the box is clearly stamped April 13th, 2022, we know that this knife was completed and boxed and shipped on that date, even though the tang stamp looks like a 2021, well, it's a 2021 tang stamp. So once again, the tang stamps are not always 100% accurate. What we do know is that this is a 2021 tang stamp, so it would not have come out in 2020, but that doesn't mean it would not have come out in 2022. And as the box tells you, this knife indeed come out in 2022. And a customer service rep from Case will also verify that. And the customer service representative from Case came right out and said that. So there you go. again for dropping by here at Knife Chats with Tobias. So don't forget to leave a comment, give us that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Thanks again. We'll talk to you again soon.